in American society. I'll tell you, actually, when I launched this presidential campaign, one of the things that I said was it was time to put the merit back into America. And I'm a big believer that language often teaches us something about the truth of what language actually describes. And so I was convinced that there was going to be actually a linguistic tie between even the word merit and America. It just seems so part of the fabric of what it meant to be American that the coincidence seemed too convenient that these two things were even similar sounding. So I did a little homework in the weeks thereafter. I first got to a disappointing conclusion. Actually, in the first instance, they didn't have the same linguistic origin. America was named after, in part, there's actually competing explanations, but Amerigo Vespucci, the famous explorer, one of the first people to come to the Western Hemisphere. And Amerigo Vespucci was named in turn after his grandfather, and that name derived actually from his grandfather. His name was derived from a Gothic word called Amalric. So it seemed like I was out of luck there. But then I got to the heart of what does Amalric mean, actually. Amalric is two words. Rick means master. Okay, it means the master, but then the master of what? Amal actually stands for work. So if you think about the root and the genesis of the American name itself, it is he who is the master of work itself. And to me, the idea of work, hard work, effort as a means to achieving success is actually inextricably linked to that idea of merit in itself. And so I think that there was a way in which even the language teaches us the way in which merit is itself part of the American fabric. And my view is the heart of what it means to be American is that you believe in merit. I'm going to make a strong claim here. I think that merit is the unifying idea that actually gives us our American identity, and it shows up in many different spheres of our lives. It does mean it's woven into the fabric of the American dream. The idea that no matter who you are or where your parents came from or what your skin color is, that you can achieve anything in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, and your own dedication. That is the heart of the American dream. And while we as conservatives, me as a presidential candidate, will say that we will get rid of affirmative action in America and race-based affirmative action, that's something that, by the way, we can end in this country with the stroke of a pen from the White House. That's something that can be done. Why do we want to do it? It's because race-based affirmative action is itself an assault on the character of our national soul. It is anti-meritocratic at its core. Now, that much is obvious. But the case I'd like to make is that that idea of merit shows up in other spheres of our lives in ways that might not be obvious either. Take our commitment to free speech in this country. A big part of what's enshrined in our, not just the protections against the government intrusion on individual liberty, but in the culture of free speech that our founding fathers set into motion, was actually a commitment to the meritocracy of ideas itself. What does that mean? What is merit in the realm of ideas? It means the best ideas win. But the best ideas only win when no ideas are censored. Right? You think about what was the best idea in how to deal with the unknown COVID pandemic. It was unknown. None of us knew exactly what that was going to look like in the first few months of that pandemic. Well, now we know in retrospect that some of the best ideas would have included leaving our schools open, even if we were taking steps to protect elder Americans. But that idea couldn't win. The best ideas cannot win when some ideas are censored. So that, too, is, I think, something that our founders knew, and that's not a different topic relating to free speech and constitutional liberty. I would make the case that merit is a common thread that runs through that very idea. What does meritocracy in government mean? To think about a different sphere of what the Constitution enshrines. Part of what we enshrined in 1776 in this country was that the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the people who actually run the government. That's what's enshrined in a three-part constitutional division of labor. And so what does merit mean there? Merit means that you earn, whoever is best at earning the trust, as amalgamated and counted in the form of votes, is most meritocratically suited to actually run the country. I speak to you on a day where, whatever you think of the man, we have a prosecutor that's trying to intervene in that system and saying the people of this country should not be given that choice. An administrative state in this town that actually views the elected officials that sit at the White House down the street as an inconvenience because it is the unelected class that today actually holds the keys to power. Yes, that goes to the idea of self-governance over aristocracy, but I think this idea of merit itself is woven into the American fabric, even in ways that you wouldn't think about it, not just in the American dream, but in our culture of free speech, not just in our culture of free speech, but even in the way we set up our system of constitutional self-governance in this country.